Hey, if you've been watching, there is something that's been going on lately. I know a lot of us, we don't really get down with politics and all that kind of stuff. But the one thing that I do believe we know about is that there are people out there today that are running for the U.S. presidency. And so even though this is not normally, what goes on in my world, but I have to say, this is a triple effect. And so one of the themes behind the triple effect is balance, the law of balance. And when we want to understand the law of balance and we want to understand how to keep ourselves in tune with nature and environment and in relationship to our brothers and sisters of the community, the world, or the humankind, then we must understand the dynamics of what influences our emotions and our moods and the way we feel. And a lot of that has to do with people that are leading the country and have an agenda in the US or outside the US, which it all affects the nucleus of who we are and what we're about. As we know today, you got the US presidency. So you got a lot of the Democrats that are mounting up and getting their position on different issues and policies and things like this. Well, that being the case, I think they started out and they said that we knew about 25 nominees or 25 candidates. Well, they're all vying for the Democratic nomination, the one that's going to be put forth and supported to see if they can win this thing. But then there is the Israeli voting going on for their president or chairman or president or the leader of their country, and they have all these different parties. It's a weird situation going on. But anyway, so that's out there, and that has a lot to do with what goes on in the world, because when you have the criminal Netanyahu that's been terrorizing the world, the Islamic world, anything in the Middle East, they've pretty much been instigating heightened levels of terrorism and then pointing the finger. And now Netanyahu is holding on because he will be going to court for war crimes as soon as they can get him out of office. So he's fighting tooth and nail to hang on because he knows the U.S. has a blind support for their agenda. And that being said, the new guy that's coming in, he has pledged to be a little more balanced, a little more reasonable with how he does business, which obviously is a good thing. So the Palestinians will get an opportunity, and there's Palestinian Arabs that live, under that rule, and so they just want a fair shake. So that would probably happen as long as Netanyahu is out of there. So that being the case, we're looking at that as well. And in addition to that, so we have the U.S. presidency race coming up in 2020. You have the Israelis that supposedly have finished voting and basically just counting the votes now. And so with that, you have some opportunity for a better future. Basically, maybe a two-state solution might be at hand in that occupied territory. Additionally, in the news, you have the U.S. that's blaming Iran for launching drones or supporting and sponsoring that struck some oil refineries in Saudi Arabia over the last weekend. And then you have these hawkish ready to go to war types, just like it was back in the Bay of Pigs and back when, Russia was invading Cuba. You have people that in the Trump presidency, cabinet, and some of his leadership, all they want to do is go and shoot bombs at Iran, support shooting bombs at Yemen. These are countries that have been under sanctions forever, and they don't have a lot left. So why are you even bothering them? Yemen hasn't even retaliated on the bombings that wrongfully Saudi Arabia is basically pawns in the game for the West. They don't have, it shouldn't even be involved and shouldn't even be dealing with this nonsense, but they are. And so with that, you have Saudi Arabia using American bombs that's continually bombing, poor people and children and women and old folks in Yemen day and night. It's been going on for about 5 years. And after 5 years, they have finally put together actual drones that actually can reach past the defenses of Saudi Arabia and target and accurately hit refineries, basically setting them back about 5 million barrels a day. That's pretty interesting because they have all this American technology that's supposed to defend from any attacks coming into Saudi Arabia, but they couldn't stop a $10,000 drone from attacking their most precious oil. Interesting. Now let's put this into perspective, because here seems like here is another attempt at American politicians that are calling for war based upon false information and a false narrative. But all along, they have been instigating and pushing Iran to make a decision, pushing Iran to get aggravated and initiate some type of attack. I mean, here's a country that's doing well based upon the restraints that they're under. But with that, they're struggling. Their people are struggling. They're tired of it. They blame the government when they know that initially the U.S. basically put a lot of constraints on them because of some events that happened in the past. The U.S. did something to Iran. Iran took some hostages, took down some aircraft. These things happen, but both sides did some bad things. And so here we are in 2019, and the U.S. has tried to put more sanctions on them, pulled out of the deal that would have given them an opportunity to use nuclear energy to sustain their country. So what they've done is adapted and overcome. You want to put us under this constraint? Fine. We'll just find other ways to deal with this, which they've done very well. And so as they go along, U.S. saying, hey, we're not going to buy oil from you. We're going to try to, tell the other countries don't buy oil from you either, which they got around that. So if they're not able to use the international funds or the monetary unit called the U.S. dollar to handle their deals, then they've decided to create their own cryptocurrency, which the U.S. can't touch. So that aggravated the U.S. as well, and they put more sanctions and all that. So they retaliated by going out and actually attacking ships, oil tankers that come through a very narrow strait near Iran, which is a very busy lane in the ocean, very important to American and very important to the people that live there and international community as well. So that being said, Uh, hold on. So that being said, the thing that disturbed me was the fact that you have people out there in Iran and Arabia and all these places that are just trying to live. They're just trying to do basic things, have basic a life, you know what I'm saying? Just really just trying to live. And so, you know, America is not really affording them an opportunity to fully engage. So yeah, there's some issues with that. So I say that to say this. There's some current events going on. And with those current events, you know, it causes America to have to kind of check themselves and look inside and make sure that you're not instigating just to be instigated. You know, if there's a legitimate reason to go after a nation, then we understand that. But at this point, you know, the fake evidence that Saudi Arabia military has presented to say they have a smoking gun, to say that Iran was probably the sponsor of this particular latest drone strikes is kind of interesting when in the past, Saudi Arabia said they were targeting drone making facilities in Yemen. So if there are actually drone making facilities in Yemen and there were drone strikes, why would you say this comes from Iran? Now, if nobody is helping the poor people in Yemen that's being bombed all the time, in Iran having the means to do so, or supplying them with food and supplying them with clothing and medical assistance, then somebody had to step up and take care of this humanitarian disaster. And if they did, then they did. But all the while, the Yemenis were putting together these drones in their facilities. And that being the case, they put them together. And when the time came, they launched them and they hit their targets. Now they're saying, since America is trying to get involved and degrade them and demean them and make them look like bad guys to the world community, then they said, okay, you know what? We're going to come back stronger than we had before. So I would pay attention to what's going on. And I would say that we need to be careful with how we handle international conflict and not cause the conflict, doing exactly what we did going into Iraq for no reason except regime change. America wanted a certain type of person, type of government, and after 20 years of war, we're still no better off than we were in Afghanistan, Pakistan, all the stands, and in Iraq. We're still no better off because we invaded a country and we left it in shambles. So we should stay out of the conflicts from Syria to Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Saudi. We just need to leave it alone. So anyway, today I want to talk to you about the triple effect. The triple effect is about what we say, do, and feel generates energy. That energy can be good or bad. That energy can be positive or negative. But we control the level of vibrations in order to attract the frequency and put us on a frequency that is consistent with positivity, that's consistent with doing good, that is consistent with attracting that which is noble and awesome. And so I implore my energy to create the atmosphere that attracts like-minded people, so that we can have a lively discussion. Today I want to talk about one of the topics that I've been following very closely recently, the U.S. presidential race. And in that race, there is someone that I believe has the ability to really take America and make it the leader that it used to be. So what we need to do is take a look at some of the policies, take a look at some of the interviews, and take a look at what makes this particular person the right person to support if you're about supporting a candidate in this race. You may know or heard about UBI. If you don't know what UBI is the Universal Basic Income. Now, I say that because you may know, if you listen to Martin Luther King, you know that Martin Luther King was very pro a basic income. Whereas we, as disenfranchised, just like other people of color, we're always trying to play catch up. You know, we're brought to a country that we didn't ask to come to, but when we got here and then finally had a little freedom, we still were so far behind that we needed, you know, some type of stability. And one of those things to help that, facilitate that, was a basic income, which we were due, we were owed, and our ancestors never got. But this was something that Martin Luther King Jr. did talk about. So you may have heard about a universal basic income. Well, today we have an Asian American that's running for president that is talking about this universal basic income as a staple, as the human capital, human-centered capital, or human capital policies, where humanity is first. You know, Americans first, people first, and then we build out from there. Some of the problems that Andrew Yang wants to solve is the following. Andrew Yang talks about there is approximately 40 million Americans that live below the poverty line. And he says technology is quickly displacing a large number of workers, and the pace will only increase as automation and other forms of artificial intelligence become more advanced. 1/3 of American workers will lose their jobs to automation by 2030. So within 10 years, according to McKinsey, which is a company that does analytics, this has the potential to destabilize our economy and society if it's unaddressed. He also says good jobs are becoming more and more scarce, and Americans are already working harder and harder for less and less. And so we need to do something about that. So Andrew Yang also talks about it is necessary to support and preserve a robust economy, robust consumer economy. There are many positive social activities that are currently impossible for many to do because they lack the financial resources to dedicate time to do it, including taking care of a child, taking care of the sick or a loved one, and volunteering in the community. So these are some of the problems that Mr. Yang sees. And with that being said, he has devised actual solutions in the form of policies to address some of the ills of society that we encounter. So one of the things that's very interesting about the statistics that he mentioned is that 1/3 of American workers will lose their jobs to automation by 2030. And he's basing that on a study by McKinsey. This has the potential to destabilize our economy and society if it is not addressed. So what is he going to do about it? if you have about 40 million Americans that's living below the poverty line, what is he going to do about it? So one of the things that Andrew Yang talks about is something that he calls the Freedom Dividend. So if you pay attention, then you know that the Freedom Dividend is his flagship policy. That policy will basically give every adult American over 18 up to the age of 64 $1,000 a month. Now, put that into perspective. When most people hear that, one, they don't take them seriously. Two, they wonder, how in the world are you going to give us free money? Three, how are you going to pay for it? Is it going to be more taxes on our backs? And so these are some of the questions that come up, or concerns. And that's fine, because we should ask that question. We should want to know, how that's going to play out. Well, I can tell you this. What would you do? This is the question you got to ask yourself. What would you do with $1,000 extra per month? No strings attached, coming to you a check every month for $1,000 every month. What would you do with an extra $1,000 a month? That's what Andrew Yang is talking about as his flagship proposal if elected as president. So the Freedom Dividend works like this. Andrew Yang, Asian American, would implement the Freedom Dividend, a universal basic income of $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year for every American between the age of 18 and 64. This is independent of one's work status or any other factor. This would enable all Americans to pay their bills, educate themselves, start businesses, be more creative, start a hobby that you always wanted, take a vacation that you always wanted, relocate for work, spend time with your children, take care of loved ones, basically have a real stake in your future. Other than regular increases to keep up with the cost of living, any change to the Freedom Dividend would require a constitutional amendment. It will be illegal to lend or borrow against one's dividend. So there is a lot of information on his website that goes into more detail about how the universal basic income works, where the money comes from, the ins and outs of who gets it, who doesn't get it. So one thing that I understand about the universal basic income is that if you are, it's kind of like you opt in, just like insurance. You can opt in to get it, or you don't have to take it. So if you are on food stamps or on welfare and you're getting subsistence from the government, if you're getting subsistence from the government, or you're getting a supplemental income from the government, and it's more than that $1,000 a month, fine, keep what you're getting, use it for what it's used for, keep getting monitored by the government that you're using it for the right things, or keep, gaming the system and being hustled all the time and having, threats put on you because somebody's trying to take your Social Security, or you will continue to get your Social Security or Social Security disability or retirement, but this is in addition to that. But you do have a choice if you're on welfare or food stamps. You can actually opt to use that or take the Freedom Dividend. How would you like an extra $12,000 a year to do whatever you choose? Right. Now, here's my personal opinion about it. Most people, and the statistics show that most people couldn't survive a financial calamity of about $400 in a month. If you got a $400 bill pop up for some reason within a month, it would destroy you financially, and most people cannot handle that. So for Andrew Yang to come up with the idea, which there are three people that came up with the idea before, even Obama talks about technology taking over and people preparing for that, and a basic income is definitely something that should be considered. So it's not new. It's just that he came up with establishing that conversation, but he has come up with an actual solution to how to implement it in a way that it does not negatively affect the poor. Some people say that it's a regressive tax. Yes, you could look at it that way. But here's the catch. Even though there is a VAT, value-added tax, just like Europe's a value-added tax. I was in England for a few years, and so I understand VAT. 10% of your goods and services will get hit with a 10% tax. Now, what happened here in the U.S., there would be a VAT, but it'll be on high-end goods. You could selectively put it on goods that are extra, and for staples, there is no VAT. So that's the intelligent thing to do. On food and clothing, there's no VAT. But if things that you don't need, you just want, high dollar items, luxury items, things like this, yes, there will be a VAT. So that's what's up with that. In addition to that, there are people that would greatly benefit, because one of the things that's important about a Freedom Dividend is the fact that, yes, you may be struggling to pay for your bills. You may be struggling to pay for your college tuition, or just a course that you want to take. These are interesting things that are very valuable. So here's what I would say. If you want to learn more about Andrew Yang policies, and because you're going to hear about Andrew Yang more and more and more, he's already qualified for all the debates. And so all he needs now is to continue doing what he's doing. And he has a massive following, just like Obama did. So when you're looking at a comparison of this race and how it's playing out, he's very popular online, which same thing Obama. He's outside of the norm. I know he's not a politician, but he's very charismatic, which is another thing. He has a mixed background, which is another thing that is common with Obama. And he has that swag. He has that it factor like Obama did. And he has this change mentality of taking America to the next step, the next level, moving us forward. And he likes to say, it's not right, it's not left. So he's basically saying, we're not talking about the right or the far right. We're not talking about left or far left. We're moving America forward. So it's not right, not left, it's forward. And that's all he want to do, is move America forward. And so this is his, his way of doing business and running for top office. But yeah, you can always check out his website at yang2020.com. That's yang2020.com. And you can find out about all his policies, right? And I invite you to take a look, just like with Bernie Sanders, just like with Joe Biden, just like with Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris or Cory Booker. These are people that want to challenge the incumbent Trump in the presidential race for 2020. And when you put them and match them up side by side, unfortunately, you have people that believe that the older, established politician is the right person for the job. Well, Obama didn't fit that. He was a politician, but he was younger. He was vibrant. He was thinking. He was intelligent, very, very intelligent, and he got things done. Biden, being the vice president, seems to be, to people of color, Black people in specifically, they think that he's the right person, the right choice for the next president of the U.S. I wholeheartedly disagree. Biden is legitimately a veteran in politics. He's a veteran in office, but he's not the right person to move the needle for the nation. if we want to reverse some of the damage done over the last 4 years or 3 years, coming up on 4, with the person that's there, then we need new and vibrant ideas, new and vibrant mentality and methodologies. We need somebody that is like a Donald Trump, but not like a Donald Trump, if you get what I'm saying. It's not a matter of Democrat or Republican. It's just the fact that we need to have somebody that can go toe-to-toe with him on the debate stage, understands his nuances of business mind versus politician mind, and take him to task on the things that he says and claims without being undermining, sneaky, disrespectful. And so Andrew Yang is the best person to do that. All you got to do is go to yang2020.com, look at his policies, and you'll see that he's legit. He's the real deal. And he has genuinely solid policies. So some of the policies that that he has, you can look at the Freedom Dividend. You look at Medicare for All, which that's a good one as well. A lot of them talk about that. But one of the things that he's really known for is humanity first, human-centered capitalism. Yang, he talks about things in the economy, jobs, and labor area of his policies. He has proposals for taking care of people, basically by what he says, taking the boot off their throat by giving them a little incentive to be more creative without stressing over money. So that's where the Freedom Dividend comes in. Human-centered capitalism, changing what the GDP evaluates, showing the health of an economy. It says it's outdated. We need a new way to do that. And we need to include mothers and caregivers, teachers, as part of the sustainability and health of our economy. He wants to improve the American scorecard with that. He even talks about doing a PowerPoint, in Congress showing the State of the Union. Using trade deals to fight climate change. He's done a couple of climate change town halls, CNN. Powerful. If you really want to understand what his policies are, then take a look. Go to YouTube, click, and you'll find out. He talks about implementing mandatory paid leave policies, right to privacy and abortion and contraception, make it easy for Americans to move for work, bringing back the move benefit, promote vocational education, value-added tax to help pay for some of the debt, make it easier to save for retirement. It talks about zoning, free financial counseling for all. That's another big one that I like. He's offering free financial counseling for everybody because most Americans don't understand enough about their financial well-being and financial security or financial stability. So he wants to make sure that everybody gets that and has access to that. Decreasing pretrial cash bail, reduce mass incarceration, which is definitely another big one because we're already overcrowded. He talks about taking away or getting rid of for-profit prisons. That's a massive deal for people of color. Paid family leave, fight for equal pay for women, legalizing marijuana. Some people may enjoy that. As a federal employee, doesn't matter. Provide basic banking services through the post office. Good idea. Prosperity grants. Increase assistance for single parents. File income taxes. Create a crypto or digital asset regulation for consumer protection. Timing of payments for small businesses. He wants to make sure that small businesses get paid on time, not being ripped off. Ease of the transition to self-driving vehicles. He's all about the future. So self-driving vehicles, automation, uh, electric cars, all these things. You know, he has Elon Musk. Elon Musk has endorsed him as well, so that's huge. Financial transaction tax, data as a property right, so intellectual property issues covered there. Empowering MMA fighters, getting rid of the penny because the penny makes no sense. Very interesting way to put it. Capital gains carried interest tax policy, regulate AI and other emerging technologies. So obviously that's something that I'm very interested in. NCAA should pay their athletes. That's a very interesting policy that we may dig into a little bit more on another platform. The Freedom Dividend is definitely the pilot product. That's something that he has offered to 12 people, or 10 people over the course of 2020. If he wins or not, that is something that he's committing to do to show people that it works. Improve the American scorecard, which obviously evaluates GDP and other factors. Create policies to hold future administrations accountable. Reduce the number of years that a judge can sit on the Supreme Court for 18 years versus lifetime. And fossil fuels, totally against it. He's all about electric, reducing the carbon footprint, a carbon fee and a dividend. A carbon fee against the ones that are the violators, and a dividend going to benefit the communities that they're affecting. Renewable energy, he talks about nuclear energy through thorium, which is the clean versus uranium. Move to higher ground, flood protection, basically reducing fireflies, geoengineering, giving people benefits to move, incentives to move, helping them with their the funding to move to places that are out of harm's way. So nature is going to be nature. Talks about geoengineering, talks about investing in research and adaptation, talks about AI, AR, these type of things, augmented reality and artificial intelligence, and then anticipated intelligence. Sustainable transportation, sustainable agriculture, sustainable practices, buildings, materials, and storage, powering a sustainable world. So policies on that, U.S. trade deals to fight climate change. So basically partner with other countries through trade to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the future of our world. So those are about 40 out of the 100 policies that he has posted on his site. Now, you would see a very active online presence called the Yang Gang, and you can hashtag Yang Gang, and it will talk a little bit about what is going on with the Yang Gang. They're the ones that are the grassroots. They're the foot soldiers for growing support for Andrew Yang. So those are some of the politics that were discussed today. But you have to understand what's going on around you in order to keep your energy at a positive level. If you're not understanding the importance of acquiring knowledge, current knowledge, historical knowledge, and then preparing yourself for the future, because the history will repeat itself if you don't understand or know of it. But you can't live in the past. You don't live in the past. You have to live for the future, because you can only go forward. You can't go backward. So remember that. Extended daylight saving time all year, prevent airlines from removing customers. So that's interesting. So he has a policy on preventing airlines from removing customers. Very interesting. Wow. Very interesting. Making taxes fun. So he's talking about creating programs for people to understand and make it easier to file your taxes. Head of culture and ceremonies. That's phenomenal. I mean, he just has so much. Support the DREAM Act, Southern border security. So he's about security, securing the borders as well, and how to entice high-skilled individuals to come to the U.S. So yeah, I mean, these are some of the quality things that Andrew Yang has put forth. I believe that he has a great opportunity here. And like he always says, the only person that can defeat Donald Trump is the opposite of Donald Trump. And the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man that loves mad. Make America think harder. MATH. That's what Andrew Yang is about. It's making Americans think. Think about what is going on around you. Think about what you can do about it and create change. And the starting point of that is by looking into what Andrew Yang has proposed, compare it to what Bernie Sanders is talking about, compare it to Joe Biden, compare it to Elizabeth Warren. And if Andrew Yang is not your number one choice, then I would probably say that the person that has a legitimate, opportunity other than Yang would probably be Elizabeth Warren. That's just my thoughts on it. Is America ready? I don't know. Is America ready for a woman president? I don't know. Is America ready for an Asian president with the situation with China right now? I don't know. Is America smart enough to choose the right person, no matter what the socioeconomic status is? I don't know. We see what happened in the last election, which we thought was going to be legit. We thought the right person would win, but without going into a lot of detail, the voting, you have the popular vote, and then you have the electoral college. And so when the candidates focus on the right states, like Wisconsin, like Pennsylvania, Florida, Michigan, these are key states. But then you have to include in that California, Nevada, Texas, Georgia, South Carolina. These are key as well. So we got to make sure that if you're going to vote, if you want to believe that you can help make this change for the better, then you have to, as a candidacy, as a campaign, you have to focus on those locations, and you have to focus on winning those locations. So if Andrew Yang is going to win, he has to focus on the unions. He has to focus on women, and most specifically, women of color, and the first-time voters, as well as peeling off those that lose confidence in Biden and Bernie, and instead of going to Elizabeth Warren, they head on over here to the energetic and exciting Andrew Yang. So hey, that's just me reading the tea leaves. How's it going to turn out? I don't know. I've never paid attention to any race except for Obama's, and I'm just observing. I'm a citizen. I'm curious to see how it plays out. And that's really my take on it. So anyway, next week we're going to have special guests. We're going to talk a little bit more about wellness. We're going to talk about health. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about branding and marketing. These are some of the topics that we're going to get back into. So don't worry. If you're not into politics, I'm not either. I'm just, it's an observation of what's going on. And I thought that I'd relate it to you tonight. So I appreciate your time. I look forward to having a more detailed conversation with like-minded people. So if you are interested in being a part of the solution, then I welcome the conversation. And I'll give you my honest opinion about it. We have a conversation. So, hey, look out for some of the things that's coming up. One, I have a couple of really great opportunities coming up around the corner. Bidding on a real life skills class for University of, I think it's San Diego. The workforce. Yes, the California workforce. So putting together a program for some disenfranchised people, and that's for a few months, teaching about career skills, job skills, interviews, things like that. Additionally, have an opportunity to attend a 3-day summit leadership here in San Diego in October. And also I'm creating a critical life skill program for foreign naturalized people here in the country as well. So I'm putting together a program for a certain demographic of society, and that'll be going on for about 8 weeks. Then in January we have the Young Men's Leadership Summit, Brother to Brother sponsoring that with Mr. Mike Love. And I also am a partner with Spicer Heights Group doing leadership and entrepreneurship programs for veterans as well as kids. Great program. Definitely looking forward to making that happen. And additionally, I've created some t-shirts, trying to get my t-shirt business off the ground. Looking for your support. So look for those t-shirts coming out soon. But this is Rashid Hill. This is the Triple Effect. It's in full effect. We will be back with you on a later date with, like I said, we're bringing to you some professionals in health and wellness, community activists, as well as where do we go from here, right? You listen to Killer Mike, you listen to T.I., listen to Puff Daddy, everybody, and David Banner. These are people, and Dr. Boris Watkins as well. They're talking about the topics that need to be talked about and discussed for our community. And so we'll see how that plays out as well. So do what you got to do. Get educated, stay educated, get active, and let's make a change for the better. Because if we don't do so, we're going to go down with the sinking ship. And so what do you want your kids to remember that happened in 2020? But more specifically, what you want them, what kind of life do you want for them when they grow up? What society do you want them to grow up in? What type of environment do you want them to grow up in? And it depends on the action you take today. I'm Rashid Hill, peace, and I'm out. See you next week.